All right, postmortem care. We're going to talk about postmortem care today. Postmortem care is something that happens to dead people. You have to take care of dead people. Oftentimes, it's done by the CNA. So every now and then, you'll have a nurse that'll do it or help you with it. But a lot of times, it's CNA. Once the person's pronounced, depending on your state, you may have different rules and laws and procedures that you have to follow. Maybe a physician has to be present. Maybe a physician doesn't have to be present. Maybe it can be one LPN. Maybe it can be two RNs. Your state have different. Your state has different policies and laws and procedures about how it has to be done. However, once it's done, you have to follow the policies and procedures. You have to follow like religious rules or religious customs. There are people that have certain rules that they have to follow once they've died in order to fulfill whatever they think is or feel is their end result. A lot of times this is different than yourself, especially myself. I am Baptist Christian, so we don't really have very many end of life care religious affiliations. We just kind of die, that's the end of it, and then we get buried or cremated. However, there are other religions or customs to where you as the nurse or the CNA, you have to follow these religion or custom beliefs. Customs, not custom, like different. But anyways, you have to follow these customs or these religious beliefs. Sometimes you have to open the windows and not touch the body. Sometimes you have to let someone come in and do a ceremony around the body. Grieving processes are different for different people. Grieving processes are different for different religions. Other times, if a person has an IV or if a person has a tube, the name of it is leaving me right at the moment. Then you have to leave everything in them at times. So you have to know kind of your orders to take care of a dead patient, a patient that's passed on. So things like that happen. I mean, you have to take care of these people just like they're living still. But oftentimes, you as the CNA or you as the nurse, most of the time it's the CNA, you have to take care of that body and you have to clean it. You have to be the one to prepare it for the morgue or the funeral home or whoever's coming. Sometimes, every now and then, you'll get a funeral home that says just leave them like they are, we're coming to get them. Sometimes if there's an autopsy involved, that's sort of the rule. But a lot of times it's the CNA that does all of the postmortem care except for like the paperwork. A lot of times it's the CNA. And speaking from it as a person who's done postmortem care, I've done postmortem care as a CNA. I've only really done, as a nurse, I've only really kind of done the bare minimum in paperwork. RNs had to kind of sign off on everything. So I was an LPN. State law wouldn't really let me do a whole lot, but I kind of did the bare minimum. But as a person who's done postmortem care, I can't even tell you how many times I've done it. I've done it quite a few times. The first time you do it is the hardest and the scariest and the freakiest, and you're upset and you don't want to be there. It's not a lot of fun, but that first time is the worst. After that first time, it kind of gets easier. It's kind of bad to say, that taking care of a dead person gets easier, but after the first time, it really kind of does. It really gets easier after that first time. You kind of know what to expect. It's easier that second time. I've had nurses and CNAs just flat out refuse to do postmortem care on people. just flat out said, you know what, I'll go home if this is what I have to do. I am not going in there with that person. Maybe they had a relationship with that person. Maybe they've known that person for a long time, especially in long-term care. And they just flat out say, you know what, I've been this person's nurse for 17 years. I'm not doing it. And, you have to respect that. It's one of those things. I'll say this. As a nurse, postmortem care, if I have a CNA that just has a deep attachment to this patient, it's one of those things where I'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna say you don't have to do it, and you have to make other arrangements. But it's one of those things that I will respect as a nurse delegating tasks. It's one of those things I would respect, saying, you know what, it's okay, I'll get somebody else to do it. Somebody else that maybe didn't know that patient as well as you did. It's one of those things that you just got to recognize. The first time's the hardest. Always do it by the religious or cultural beliefs. It's just day one stuff, and it's just, it's what it is. It is what it is. You just have to do it. I did it. It's terrible. It's no fun. I hope it helps. Thank you much.